Well, hey guys, today I want to talk about how to get rid of stubborn dry skin on your legs. You may be wearing shorts, we're in summer, maybe a lot of skirts, and you've just noticed, gosh, why do my legs look so dry? Maybe towards the end of the day, they start looking flaky. Could be any one of a number of issues. It's actually quite common as we get older for our skin to have a greater tendency towards dryness, especially the lower legs. We lose water more readily. The skin barrier is not as hardy, if you will. Our body doesn't produce ceramides, the lipids in skin's outermost layer, as readily, so we're just more inclined towards dry skin. A lot of dry skin on the lower legs can also be influenced by your climate. For example, if you have been vacationing, maybe you went to a tropical area or it was very humid, very lush, and you came back to a drier climate, and all of a sudden your skin is really dry and flaky. Speaking of vacationing, maybe you recently went somewhere and you got a lot of sun exposure. You got maybe, unfortunately, a sunburn, and now the skin is very flaky. The lower legs, especially in women, it's an area that gets a lot of sun exposure, sun damage, so that could definitely be contributory. UV rays also weaken our skin barrier, making the skin more prone to dryness. Or maybe you have an underlying skin condition that leads to patches of dry, flaky skin on the legs. For example, maybe you have psoriasis. Typically, you get these scaly, flaky, red, thick, raised patches of skin on the knees or anywhere on the legs. Or maybe you have atopic dermatitis and your legs flare up with dry, itchy patches. There is even a genetic dry skin condition where you have very, very dry skin, often on the lower legs, called ichthyosis vulgaris. I have a video all about this condition where I give specific pointers about how to manage it, so check that out if that is something that sounds relevant to you. And of course, our daily bathing habits and hygiene practices can lead to dry skin, such as overbathing, using very harsh soaps, scrubs, exfoliating, shaving aggressively, and then not tending to your skin's moisture barrier afterward, all can impact dry skin. You can also get a buildup of very dry, thick skin around the ankles, from your ankles rubbing together. Maybe you're a runner, that's something I experience. You also can get this between the thighs as they rub together. So one of my number one tips that I often give when it comes to rectifying very dry skin is to, and you're gonna be like, I know what she's gonna say, I know what she's gonna say, is to lean into a petrolatum-based ointment, such as, well, Vaseline, but there's also Aquaphor, CeraVe healing ointment, Cetaphil healing ointment. There are many options out there, but what you wanna do, especially on the legs, this is really, really helpful, is in the evening time, when you get out of the shower or out of the bath, pat dry the skin of visible drips of water and immediately slather with a thick coat of that petrolatum ointment. It's gonna feel uncomfortable. You're gonna be like, oh, I don't know about this, but what you're gonna do is get yourself an old pair of cotton pajama pants and put them on over to really trap that in there and let it really, really, really lock in the hydration into your skin. This can really change things up for you. If you wanna go all out, give yourself a little spa night. Rather than just grabbing the old pajama pants, get yourself some plastic wrap, saran wrap. Wrap your legs up. Alternatively, you could get some gauze bandages and do something similar. But just hang out that way. You're doing your own at-home spa wrap. It really can just jumpstart barrier repair and get you back on track. It's not something that you have to do every night for the rest of your life because it is rather involved, but let me tell you, it can really get things back on track. The other moisturizing practice that can make a huge difference is using a moisturizer that contains urea or lactic acid or glycolic acid or salicylic acid. These ingredients are keratolytic, so they go in and they kind of dissolve the glue between the dry, flaky skin, smoothing things out. And many of these ingredients are also humectants, so they improve the water content in your outermost skin barrier. For example, Gold Bond has an excellent diabetic skin relief lotion with urea, but there's also Eucerin Intensive Repair, another fantastic option. I also really love amlactin. It has ammonium lactate, which is basically lactic acid. Now, some people don't really care for the way that that smells, but it certainly is an effective option. The brand Alpha Care has a glycolic acid body lotion that also is excellent for hydrating up dry, flaky skin. If you're dealing with a lot of chafing, I suggest looking for a skin protectant. This can definitely help cut down on those frictional forces that lead to the buildup of thickened, flaky skin, whether it be on your ankles or in between your thighs. There are many options out there. I already mentioned Vaseline petroleum jelly it's a skin protectant, but it's not something that is so comfortable for everybody to be using between their legs and going about their day, especially if you live somewhere hot and humid. You may not care for that. Alternatively, they make dimethicone-based skin protectants that are excellent for reducing chafing. I am a huge fan of Monistat chafing cream. It is basically a dimethicone skin protectant. There's also the La Roche-Posay Cicaplast Balm. That too is a dimethicone skin protectant. Another excellent option for cutting down on those frictional forces that aggravate dry skin. Now, if you have an underlying skin condition like atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, keratosis pilaris, ichthyosis vulgaris, check out my videos on those skin conditions because I give very specific tips for those things. And of course, check in with your dermatologist. It may be time to adjust any medications that you might be using to manage your skin condition or introduce something new into your management plan. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I already alluded to this at the beginning of the video. Sun damage will make your skin much more prone to dryness. The advantage of using sunscreen to the lower legs, provided you're not wearing pants. If you're wearing pants or a long skirt, you really don't necessarily need to wear sunscreen, but the advantage of wearing sunscreen to the lower legs is twofold. First of all, you get the protection from the UV rays that lead to weakening of the skin barrier and more dryness, but you also get a moisturizer. Sunscreens are moisturizing and will help reduce water loss, keeping the skin hydrated and helping to cut down on the buildup of that dry, flaky skin. Let's talk about your bathing habits. Now, I often give this advice in any video related to dry skin. Be really conscientious of your bathing habits. Some people tend to take these very long, hot showers that unfortunately can dry out the skin. That being said, a shower or a bath can actually help you out quite a bit in your journey to rectifying dry, flaky skin, whether it be on your legs or anywhere else on your body, because the act of bathing does hydrate up skin's outermost layer, making it optimized, if you will, for subsequent application of your moisturizer to really get things back on track. But if you're in there too long and you overdo it with the hot water, it can end up drying things out. Not to mention, if you are using body washes and body scrubs, you may end up further contributing to dryness of the lower legs. I've said this before and people are baffled by it, but for the most part, provided your legs are not visibly soiled with dirt or some sort of thing that you were exposed to maybe throughout the day, like paint, for example, you don't actually need to use soap on the lower legs. And for older adults in particular, I mean, honestly, starting in your late 30s, you may find that really the soap is not only not necessary, but it's actually making you drier and drier. And people will say, well, that's what lotion is for. Yes, but like you do get to a point where it's kind of diminishing returns. So dial back on the body wash that you are using. It may be drying out your legs to be using it on the legs if they're not visibly soiled. Alternatively, another thing I suggest when it comes to bathing, especially on the lower legs, a lot of people will ask me, well, you know, you've recommended that we wear sunscreen. I've been wearing a water resistant sunscreen so that, you know, it stays on a little bit better with sweat. But I find that when I get in the shower, it's really hard to get it off because the water is like beating up there, I see, and you know, I kind of need to use something. Sometimes body wash alone doesn't cut it. People will say body wash alone should be enough, but I've been there myself. I've been there in the shower with a lot of water resistant sunscreen on my legs, and I know exactly what you guys are talking about. It can be very difficult to get it off. That's a good thing, right? We don't necessarily want it to be easy to get off. So what I suggest is getting yourself a body oil, a bath oil. Now, Neutrogena makes one that I always recommend, but you can get really any bath oil that you like and put it on your legs before you get in the shower. That will kind of help break up the sunscreen film for you and allow it to wash off much more easily. Plus, it kind of helps offset some of the drying effects that bathing can have on the skin of the lower legs. Let's talk about leg shaving. Be really mindful of your leg shaving habits if you shave your legs, because there are mistakes you may be making that can be making your skin on your legs much drier. For example, you only need to go over a given area of hair that needs to be shaved once, but a lot of people, because honestly in the shower it can be a little tricky to shave your legs depending on the lighting and angles, but a lot of people end up going over the same area multiple times. Well, that can lead to a lot of dryness and irritation. So try and just do a minimal number of passes to get what you need, and don't go overboard shaving over the same area multiple times. Take really short strokes. You don't need to press very hard. Don't need to take take out your aggression on your skin barrier. Make sure your razor is sharp. That way it is more efficient and effective at cutting the hairs. Also will cut down on shave irritation. Whatever you do, you absolutely want to apply a shave cream, a shave gel, or recently I have discovered and fallen in love with shave oils. Love them, love the Tree Hut ones. I love the one from EOS that I've tried out. They are wonderful. I personally rather enjoy them. But honestly, any shaving cream, foam, gel is something that you definitely want to use when shaving your legs to cut down on dryness and irritation. But before you start shaving, make sure you have been in the shower for a couple of minutes at least. That way it gives you enough time to make sure that the hair on your legs and your skin have gotten wet, and the hair is wet, because when the hair is wet, it is much easier to cut. The other thing I want to point out about shaving is it is a form of mechanical exfoliation. So you certainly can overdo it with shaving and other exfoliants. So lay off of those scrubs and things, because you may be weakening your skin barrier doing too much. The other thing you should be mindful of throughout the day to really keep on track with keeping your legs hydrated and from getting too dry is be careful of what you are around. Like if you are, this isn't so relevant now that it is summer, presumably, but in the winter time, if you stand near like a heater, a fire, that can really dry out your skin. So be really careful in that regard, that you're not drying out your skin from doing that. Those are my tips on how to cut down on dry, flaky skin. Now, I know a lot of you guys really enjoy using sunless tanning products. I think of them basically as body makeup. And of course, I advocate for them over like getting a UV mediated tan, which is basically skin injury. A sunless tanning product with dihydroxyacetone is not only safer, but honestly, it provides cosmetic coverage that is much better in my opinion. So if there are little things on your lower legs that you are seeking to camouflage, sunless tanner can be great in that regard. But if your skin on your legs is dry and flaky, the sunless tanner can end up going on streaky, uneven, and look much worse than you probably want. But if you employ the tips that I gave you in today's video, you do them several days in advance of using a sunless tanner, your mind is going to be blown as to how much better the sunless tanner goes on and looks in comparison to had you gone on dry, flaky skin. All right, y'all. So that's what I wanted to talk about in today's video, was how to get rid of dry, flaky skin on your legs. I know it's a really common issue that a lot of people deal with, especially this time of year. It may be something that is more noticeable to you. Everything I mentioned is linked in the description box, along with my recent video on the best body moisturizers for summer. Speaking of which, I'm going to link that video on the end slate, so check it out next if you missed it. But if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye!